Ask your doctor.
Ask your doctor.
My doctor told me.
Ask your doctor.
Big Pharma, or the pharmaceutical industry, is a powerful source in the United States. With billions of dollars in revenue, they heavily market their drugs to consumers through various channels, including TV, commercials, online ads, and print media. While some may argue that drug advertisements provide valuable information to the consumers, there are actually significant downsides and negative implications that are often overlooked.
You can't sit down to TV at night and not see a half a dozen drug company commercials.
Millions of Americans watch the ads and then ask their doctors for prescriptions.
The reason we're seeing so much consumer advertising is because it works.
They do it by telling people, ask your doctor.
They can sell us almost anything.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsay Marie. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician. On this channel, I like to discuss wellness in the form of nutrition. I also provide educational videos on a lot of other health-related topics. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe. Now back to the video, and I wanted to start off with a quick story time. When I was in college, I had a good friend from Germany. He was in the foreign exchange program at my school, and before he was leaving back to his country, we had a chance to have a good conversation about some of his thoughts about coming to America and what it was like. And one of the things I will never forget is how he told me he couldn't believe how many drug ads were on TV. He said in his country, people go to the doctor and the doctor tells them what medications they should be on for their condition, versus his perspective that he got from here in the United States is that patients go to their doctor asking their doctors for this type of drug for their condition. And back then, that was something I actually never thought about before. I never realized that other countries didn't do it the same way we did, and that healthcare in America was completely different from other countries. And a lot of that has to do with Big Pharma and the pharmaceutical industry. So now I would like to discuss 6 negative aspects of Big Pharma and the multiple drug advertisements in the United States. Number 1 on the list is misleading or incomplete information. With this one, drug advertisements may not always provide complete and accurate information about the risks, side effects, and limitations of the advertised drug. And this can lead to a lot of misconceptions or misunderstandings among consumers, potentially resulting in inappropriate and unsafe drug use. A good example of this might be with the drug Ozempic, which was initially a medication for patients with type 2 diabetes, but in more recent years has been approved for weight loss in patients with obesity. This drug may be advertised as a medication that can provide significant weight loss, but it also may leave out some of the more common side effects or more serious side effects of the medication. Then on other forms of media with various celebrities and on social media with TikTok, you have this drug being known as a wonder drug for weight loss when all of the negative side effects are also not discussed. I have just done a whole entire video on Ozempic, more facts about Ozempic, and 3 main downsides of the medication and the weight loss trend with Ozempic. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check it out. I'll provide the link in the description box below. Moving on to number 2, drug advertisements and Big Pharma tend to put an overemphasis on drug benefits. Again, we're seeing this concept where drug advertisements will highlight a lot of the benefits of a particular treatment or medication, but often downplay a lot of the negative or potentially harmful risks and limitations of the drug. In addition to that, these ads often use emotional appeal and persuasive language to highlight the positive aspects of a drug, creating an unrealistic expectation among consumers, which then leads them to believe that the drug is a magic pill or a cure-all without any drawbacks at all, which might not be the case in reality. And the illustration I would like to use for this example is with the drug by the name of Paxlovid. Now, some of you may have heard of this medication before. Paxlovid is an antiviral oral treatment for COVID in certain patients who are at high risk for severe disease. It was first released in December of 2021, and since that time there have been multiple drug advertisements and government advertisements and print ad advertisements to patients discussing this drug as an option for treatment of COVID. As you can imagine, as this medication, being a product of Big Pharma, has been heavily advertised to the general public, and unfortunately, as a family medicine doctor, I feel it has been widely misrepresented to the public. To start off, I would just like to say that the drug advertisements have led people to believe that it is fully FDA approved, and that is not the case. Even since December 2021, on the website for Paxlovid itself, it says that it is authorized for emergency use. And right here again, Paxlovid has not been approved, but has been authorized for emergency use by the FDA. So just to clarify, that is not a full FDA approval of this medication. It is for emergency use only, and mainly in those patients who are at high risk for severe disease. I would say mostly in patients with severe asthma or COPD, or those who have cancer or whose immune systems are severely compromised. It's important to remember that COVID-19 as a virus will run its course and get better on its own, most likely with the proper treatment. Now that it has been almost 3 years out, it's a lot more milder than when it first came out 3 years ago, so that's a good thing. For the most part, it presents like a bad cold or flu. Some of the flu-like symptoms may include fever, body aches, or fatigue, and the cold-like symptoms could include more so sore throat, cough, or congestion. In the general population who is healthy, all that's needed to treat COVID-19 is mostly supportive care, meaning lots of rest, fluids, and vitamin C daily. You can also use any over-the-counter cold or flu medications, and if needed by your doctor's approval, you may be prescribed either steroids or a cough medication, and then only rarely or in those certain cases of people who are at high risk for the disease, they may be offered Paxlovid by their doctor. With all medications, they do come with side effects, and with this particular medication, it comes with a lot of medication interactions. So that was another issue of placing patients on this medication, because a lot of the people who are sicker and needing it have a lot of medications that they are already on and it interacts with, and it wasn't the safest option to give it to them. The medication also comes with side effects. The majority I have heard in patients who are on it have discussed having a very metallic taste in their mouth. I have also had several patients who have been on the medication come back with an oral thrush that ended up being chronic, and they couldn't get rid of it very easily. The last downside of this medication that was conveniently not advertised to the general public is that it can actually cause rebound symptoms of COVID, meaning the patients would take the medication and after they finished, they would get all of the same symptoms of COVID right back. With this medication being heavily advertised to the general public on various news sources, commercials, ads, print ads, and with the overemphasis of the benefits of this medication, I can't begin to tell you how many patients I have had come to me asking for the medication. And these patients were not just asking for the medication, they were almost demanding the medication and yelling at me for this medication without even listening to me about the warnings and side effects and potential downsides of it. All they had in their head was that Paxlovid is a magic pill that's going to take away their COVID symptoms, and that's simply just not the case. So as a family medicine doctor who has seen thousands of patients who are positive for COVID-19 and have had many of those come to me demanding and almost yelling for the medication, just be aware that what you have seen on the drug advertisements may not always be the full truth of what the drug really entails. And please remember to come to your doctor with respect, with a general curiosity about a medication and asking questions about it before having an entitled sense of an attitude and demanding and yelling for the medication just because you saw it on TV as a magic pill, which it may not be. All right, after going over all of that with the first two examples of the dangers of Big Pharma and certain drug advertisements, moving on down the list is number 3, which is the promotion of unnecessary and inappropriate drug use. Again, certain drug advertisements may encourage consumers or patients to request specific medications from their healthcare providers, even if they may not need them or if there is another more appropriate medication available. This can actually lead to the overutilization of certain drugs, potentially resulting in unnecessary healthcare costs, increased risks of adverse effects, and reduced overall quality of care. An example of this might be if a drug company decides to use a drug for other conditions as an off-label use. And unfortunately, certain drugs that are used as off-label may not have enough evidence to support their safety and efficacy in those specific uses. And on the screen here, you'll see a few examples of certain categories and drugs and their off-label uses. For instance, gabapentin has been off-label used for bipolar disorder, diabetes, fibromyalgia, neuropathic pain symptoms, headache, hiccups, hot flashes, and restless leg syndrome. And that brings us to number 4 of the negative aspects of big pharma and multiple drug advertisements, and that is the increased healthcare costs. If you are not aware, the cost of drug advertising is often passed on to consumers in the form of higher drug prices and thus increasing the cost of healthcare. This can make medications less affordable to patients, especially those without health insurance or limited financial resources, and it affects their ability to access the medications that are needed. In 2020, a whopping $4.1 trillion was spent on healthcare in the United States. This graph right here shows how U.S. healthcare spending per capita compares with other countries. As you can see, the United States is leading at number 1 with a total of $10,586, and India being the lowest at $209 per capita. And finally, this graph here just shows a standard procedure known as angioplasty, which is a surgical procedure that inserts a stent in a blocked blood vessel to improve blood flow. It's often used in patients with coronary artery disease and is much needed. In the United States, this procedure costs $32,200 compared to a lower cost in Switzerland, which was only $7,400. So as you can see, the cost of healthcare in America is astronomical, with trillions of dollars being spent on healthcare in America every year. And for many important surgical procedures, the cost has been almost double or tripled that of other countries. And you guessed it, big pharma and multiple drug advertisements contribute a lot to the rising healthcare costs in America. Next up on the list at number 5 is conflicting information. Some drugs might be made from more than one company, and drug advertisements from different manufacturers or competing brands may present conflicting information about the same type of medication, leading to confusion among patients. This can make it difficult for patients to make an informed decision about their treatment options and may result in suboptimal healthcare outcomes. One example you might be aware of is the multiple drug companies who have created the COVID-19 vaccination, and there are 3 main ones that were used in the United States. They include Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. As you may know, some of these may have had slightly different formulas or side effects associated with them, and there may have been some conflicting information across all 3 companies, making it harder for the patient to decide which vaccination would be best for them. Speaking on that topic, it could be enough to discuss on a whole nother video, but knowing that it is slightly controversial, we will stick to the minimum in basics in this video for now. And that brings us to the last but not least negative aspect of big pharma and the multiple drug advertisements, and that is number 6, which is targeting vulnerable populations. Drug advertisements may be more targeted towards vulnerable populations, including children, elderly individuals, or people with chronic health conditions who may be more susceptible to the influence of marketing messages. And this can raise ethical concerns as it may exploit these vulnerable populations and potentially result in inappropriate or unsafe use of medications. Remember, it's important for patients to critically evaluate drug advertisements and consult with your healthcare providers before starting a medication that may not be right for you. I want to encourage you all to have an open and honest discussion with your doctor about any medication that you may be starting, whether it's something you saw on TV or something that you know that you need. You want to discuss all of the risks and the benefits and see what might be best for you. Healthcare providers should also follow evidence-based guidance and prioritize patient safety when prescribing medications. In some cases, medications are not the only solutions, as healthy lifestyle behaviors such as exercise, healthy eating, and stress management can also play a crucial role in maintaining good health. Ultimately, your health is in your hands, so take charge, be informed, and make choices that prioritize your health and well-being. Thanks again for watching. If you have found this video interesting or informative, be sure to like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe as I am making new videos on health-related topics in the future. And until next time, bye!